So, now we will discuss about another important area, although it is not directly related to IP, but is also somehow relevant with reference to the IP. Mostly relevant this area is there is a very growing area, because protection of biodiversity is somehow we are telling the protection of biodiversity, not say IP, biodiversity. Or protection of bioresources. Or another part, consumption of bioresource and impact of bioresources and its impact. So, this part definitely you understood that this is the concerns in present day context. Okay. So, what is biodiversity and how it has some relations with the IP, what are the different issues with reference to the biodiversity, what is CBD and Convention of Biodiversity. Then if some country is a member of CBD, then how that's what are the different areas CBD has mentioned, and what are the issues still remains unresolved in reference to that. Okay. So, now if I ask what do you mean by biodiversity? Okay. Just like say take the definitions, that it in terms of the variability within species, between species and between ecosystem. Just like say consider biodiversity of Andaman or say particular island of Andaman. So, variability within species, between species and between ecosystem. There is a variability within species, between species and between ecosystem. So, that lead to the biodiversity. Variability within species, between species and between ecosystem lead to the biodiversity. So, if I ask why biodiversity is essential, whether for protection of or for sustaining of the ecosystems or sustaining of those species, or sustainability of a particular species, or for sustainability of the ecosystem, I think the answer lies within that. Okay. So, so variability is required or variability is not required? Definitely required for the sustaining of the species, sustaining of the ecosystem. Okay. So, now we required that definitely that species including let us say plant based resources, animal based resources. Okay. So, now all those things is creating a particular ecosystem, just like say you consider food chain in a particular ecosystem. Okay. So, if you some way within that chain some thing is disturbed, that lead to the disturbance of the ecosystem, and that will affect the biodiversity of that region. Okay, just like say of that region. So, if biodiversity is affected, in larger consequences it will affect the total ecosystems of that region maybe. So, we have told that conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. So, within the purview of CBD, we required that, just like I told you, consumption of bioresources within that, let us say this is also a species within the purview of biodiversity, may lead to some impact, may impact some way the ecosystem and subsequently. And so protection of bioresources is required in reference to biodiversity, to protect the biodiversity. So, that way we require conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. What do you mean by sustainable use? Definitely within that biodiversity we have, let us say, consider a particular biodiversity having the different species. So, now the species is beneficial with reference to something, just like say again I am linking with reference to the plant variety. Let us say the plant variety is an important component of that a particular biodiversity. So, now you are somehow using that plant variety for sustainable development of the country. Sustainable means somehow just like to make a balance with reference to particular things, just like say sometimes sustainable development of a country, just like say sustainable development of sustainable development with reference to the environment, just like how can you make a balance between the growth of industry and its impact on environment. Similarly, sustainable use, that way you are use such a way that use will ultimately not hamper the biodiversity, but use is required for maybe greater goal, let us say here food security. So, considering that CVD perspective, so that convention, because let us say a multinational is somehow producing a just like destroying a biodiversity by for generation of greater or large number of bioresources. So, then what will happen, that bioresources will be, they will exploit the bioresources, and that lead to the depletion of bioresources, that lead to the disturbance of the ecosystem, that lead to the that ultimately will impact the biodiversity. That biodiversity impact will ultimately lead to the impact of environment and other parts. Okay. Ultimately, the humans or will be humans being will be also impacted because of the impact of biodiversity. So, this conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity is essential. So, you require to conserve the biodiversity, and also if you use it in the sustainable use of biodiversity. So, now when you are telling the use, somehow the issues are coming up one components, let us say particular biodiversity belongs to a particular community. Why I am telling the particular community? That bioresource they are nurturing over the year. So, that bioresource is their traditional resources. Okay, just like say give an example, let us say particular community in a tribal community in a let us say in western Odisha, they are having the knowledge of a particular species and its attributes of that species, and the species is an element of a biodiversity of that area. Now, that species, they know that species can be used, they may know or they do not ignorant about that, but particular MNC they know that species can be used for generating some medicines or some chemical. So, then they will ultimately try to exploit that species or use that species not in sustainable way, and that will lead to the destruction of biodiversities. But if you want to use even sustainable way, then also they may have to extract the knowledge about that species, from that community. So, there lies the role of benefit sharing with reference to the biodiversities. So, what is that? So, okay, just like say whether the MNCs or other entity, when they will get the knowledge about that bio resources from that community, whether they will get what type of return they will provide to that communities. So, that called benefit means let us say they will use that resources for greater goal and greater benefit, and that benefit how they will share with that community. Is there any mechanism for benefit sharing? That is the areas of research, what will be the appropriate benefit sharing mechanism with reference to the sustainable use of biodiversities. So, these are the area of where let us say you understood that required further research. Then preservation and respect of knowledge of traditional people, that I told you that within respect of within a biodiversity, a particular community have been also inhabiting over the year, and community is nurturing with those biodiversity and within that biodiversity the bioresources and others resources are also there. So, now how they have, so that way we consider they have traditional knowledge with reference to those things. Okay. So, now how that so that traditional knowledge will be preserved and respected. So, that is also the area within the purview of this topic biodiversities. Okay. So, subsequent area I will refer this thing again in respect of IP commercialization. So, this area is also important. Let us say traditional people, they have some knowledge, that knowledge you may consider in the purview of technology, means they know how to extract particular chemical from a particular trees, or they know how to extract particular chemical from an insect. So, definitely there lies the attributes of technology. So, then how that knowledge or technology will be transferred from that community to the MNCs. So, these are the another area of within the purview of that. Okay. So, now what we are getting, that biodiversity is an important area. So, now whether IP will impact the biodiversity or not. Okay. Just like say I consider one part, the plant variety, whether plant variety protection have any impact on biodiversity. The question lies, so means plant variety and biodiversity. Okay. Similarly, let us say patent and biodiversity. Okay. So, just like say whether IP means IP has an impact on biodiversity. So, there we are thinking about this, let us say these two forms, patent and plant varieties. Okay. So, considering that way that IP is just like if I put up hypothesis, IP is somehow disturbing biodiversities. Yeah, you may let us say multinational is exploiting some forms of bioresources for their greater goal, then definitely that has an impact on biodiversities. So, that way that biodiversity definitely will be impacted by means of let us say patent. Okay. So, that way that biodiversity and IP, how can you make a balance between that? There lies the, these are the different things: sustainable use of biodiversity and this benefit sharing and the respect of knowledge of traditional people. ठीक है ना? So, misappropriation of indigenous and local community knowledge in the form of bioresources or its attributes, then ultimately the community will not get appropriate return. So, there are a series of incidents are there. I will just cite one by one, where that community or the say traditional knowledge may be in a particular biodiversity has an impact, impact, and how that has been attempt has been made to misappropriate that, or misappropriate you may consider the biodiversity specifically. Okay, just like say you know the incident of Basmati. A company called Rice Tech in USA, they try to file a patent on high yielding varieties of rice or naming at Basmati kinds of thing, not Basmati specifically. Okay. So, then that just plant, because high yielding varieties of plant patent, high yielding varieties of plant. Okay. So, now Basmati is, you know, that is also a part of our biodiversity. You may consider in a particular region it grows, it is our age old practice of cultivating and growing Basmati. So, now if a particular multinational get patents out of protected is a patent, then our say bioresource be the property of a multinational company. So, considering that, say ultimately that Indian communities with taking the leads from an NGO, they somehow try to protect that from the protect it from the hands of multinational. They somehow file for re-examination, and partly they have restricted the rights of over the Basmati from a multinational company. So, some of the claims have been omitted from that patent specifications of that multinational company called Rice Tech. So, see that there is an attempt where that particular varieties of plant that have been growing in a area in India and India, that way some way an attempt have been made to misappropriate that plant. Okay. Then similarly, Neem, Haldi, all are the things that is also a part of we may consider biodiversity or bioresources in India. Attempt has been made to take patent protection of some of the attributes of those things. Just like say a patent was granted by the European Patent Office to the Agriculture and Corporation over a process of extracting oil from neem tree, which has been used for generation by communities in India. See, understood. So, neem oil, you know that is a part of bioresource or bio based product in a traditional community in India. People have been using the neem oil for different purposes, just like say pain reliefs or other purposes. So, neem and its extraction of oil attempt have been made to get it patented. So, bioresource based patent, that definitely will impact the use of that bioresources, and that impact will ultimately lead to the that ultimately will lead to the non-sustainable use. I will put non-sustainable use of biodiversity or bioresources. Okay. So, that way, then similarly haldi, just like you know that wound healing properties of haldi, that have been attempt have been made to get a patents to create some medicines out of haldi in European patent office. So, if that haldi is get patented, then ultimately our traditional community who has a knowledge of that bioresource and its potential use with reference to the with reference to medical treatment, then they will not get what you are telling this part, benefit sharing. So, MNC will get benefit out of that. So, somehow, and that is Indian communities with the help of some NGO able to revoke the patents on haldi. Similarly, that Ayushka, the patent was granted by the USPTO to a US citizen over a variety of the Ayushka vine, which has been used for generation by indigenous people in Amazon for ceremonial and healing purposes. This is for USA, not say this is for these are that Indian communities, that they are also see that not only that Indian communities hampered, the community indigenous community of Amazon is also getting hampered because of the use of bioresources from a particular biodiversity by means of patents on the hands of MNCs. See, so that way the biodiversity, so bioresource, see understood, bioresource can bioresource and its non-sustainable use. So, because why I am telling non-sustainable use, the MNC is trying to get a patent, definitely they will use it not in a sustainable way. Then they will not give benefit sharing, means they will not, there is no benefit sharing formula with reference to that. So, that will lead to the impact, both biodiversity will be impact and also will impact the say traditional knowledge or knowledge of the traditional communities. Okay. So, if I now say that what is the impact, what is the importance of this area, I will say the importance of this area is what is why biodiversity is important, but and its interrelationship with reference to the IPR. So, whether IPR is somehow hampering the biodiversity or not. Now, what are the different others means, just like we have to use for sustainable use of biodiversities. How can you create a mechanism for benefit sharing of the community who is also that their livelihood also dependent, some of this is important, livelihood is also dependent on that biodiversities. Okay. So, that way that IPR, say somebody tell IPR, this hypothesis I told IPR is impacting the biodiversity and impacting the livelihood of the traditional community. Okay. Then what are the measures you will take to protect the interest of that community and with reference to the biodiversities. Okay. So, there lies the role of benefit sharing and conservation and sustainable use of biodiversities specifically. Okay. Okay. Biodiversity specifically. So, okay. So, now how can I summarize this portion? Biodiversity. What is biodiversity? You understood. This is a technical, totally technical. How it is related to IP? Take the series of cases. What are the areas of concern with reference to biodiversity? Technology transfer, benefit sharing, conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. How can you create an appropriate model for sustainable use of biodiversity? Research. Sometime you may create a model for sustainable use of biodiversities, just like say libraries for bioresources in a particular area. Now, create a mechanism that how bioresources, the library of, let us say library of bioresource, okay, bioresource. So, now that library or will that people MNC may, so let us say MNC may access that bioresources, the library of the bioresources, and they will ultimately use that, and the library you are create a society, and society will ultimately monitor the use, that whether use is sustainable ways or not, okay, that monitor the responsibility. Then this society will get some benefit from this MNC for the use of the resources, and this benefit will go to the member, all the members. So, you may create this type of mechanism, and that way that this bioresource also will be used for greater goal, means bioresource based product also people will get. Now, you know that present day understood the Patanjali, the huge brand. Okay. So, that part the Patanjali and biodiversity. Okay. Similarly, Ayurveda and biodiversities. Okay. So, that is the area of research now, Ayurveda and biodiversities. Okay. So, how, so that way you may create as an say commercialization framework of biodiversities, bioresources. How can you create a commercialization framework for bioresources, or commercialization framework that taking the, that will take the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity is an important, and how will you create a benefit sharing mechanism out of that. So, this topic is really for research purposes, and I will suggest you read series of research paper available on different internet resources, including Elsevier's, and see how can you create a mechanism for benefit sharing and mechanism for sustainable use of biodiversities. Okay. Read CBD, Convention of Biodiversities, all those articles that is coming in the purview of this module specifically, although I have not gone in details about that. Okay. So, let us close it here.